Epilepsy, a common but complicated neurological condition.
A seizure, in the layman's term, is a burst of electrical activity in your brain.
And it makes its victims fall and wobble as if they are under a demonic attack.
So when it comes, most of the time she always falls from the bed. Anytime she's coming, she always clap her hands and make noise.
The unfortunate ones fall and end up in fire and come up with a lifetime deformity or even death.
When they get these extensive burns, they are really horrific injuries and they are very difficult to treat.
Epilepsy doesn't care about the state and location of its victims. It can spoil nice moments.
There was a day we were having sex and it happened.
What did you do?
I continued what I was doing. I was like, master, I can't allow this thing to spoil my phone. Wherever I was, I just continue. And the moment I continue, that was one of the shortest I've experienced. I said, and it's understand your man, everyone will be an trick. No.
I am Seth Kwame Boateng, and today I will take you through one of the diseases prevalent in Ghana but hardly talked about. Prepare to hear the shocking and heartbreaking stories of people living with epilepsy and the psychological trauma it brings their families. In this documentary, we shall also be learning how to handle persons living with epilepsy. It is said that when life throws eggs at you, make omelette. But what do you do when life gives you epilepsy, the chronic non-communicable disorder of the brain which can affect people of all ages? It is either referred to as epilepsy, seizures, or fit.
Why do people have seizures? So one of the commonest ones in our environment is poor maternal and child care. For example, a woman goes into labor, the nearest hospital is far away, should be in labor for 2 days. By the time the baby comes out, the baby is asphyxiated. Not enough blood is going to the baby's brain. So the baby will be blue, baby will be floppy. So by the time the baby is resuscitated, if within 5 minutes, if no blood goes to the brain, your brain is gone. So this baby will grow up, not be able to talk, not able to walk, and the next event is seizures, and these are intractable seizures. 2, one of the biggest causes of seizures amongst our young people is trauma. They fall down from the motorcycles, crash their heads, have head injuries, workers working on platforms falling down from a height without their helmets. These are very common in road traffic accidents. These are the next thing, because you have a scar in your brain, and that is a nidus for you to get seizures. Seizures that occur from trauma are extremely difficult to treat because there's damage there and it is a continuous process.
Scores of people are daily falling victims to this disease through all forms of accidents. And Fatima Takarimu, a 32-year-old mother of 2, can relate, as her auntie Emilia Auni confirms.
She climbed a tree, fell down, broke the legs. They sent her to the hospital. Old man went and brought her home. So they used these local treatments for the leg. And she became okay. And it was after some time that we realized that she was behaving abnormally. We didn't understand it. We had to send her to the hospital.
And this abnormal behavior after Fatima fell has changed her life forever. She suddenly began to suffer violent seizures which would drag her into an embarrassing convulsion.
Me myself like this, when the sickness come, I don't know. When I just get up and they are telling me say that, oh, first you are doing this, you are doing this. But me myself, I don't know. When the sickness come like this or the sickness want to disturb me, you will see that I'm feeling headache. But
feeling headache?
Yes. But when I start taking in the medicine, for now there, it's better. Thanks be to God.
When it is coming, do you notice it is coming?
No.
Or you realize that is that you are down?
Yes.
Tell me how that has affected your life, especially growing up. Your mother tells me you wanted to become a teacher.
Yes, and I want to come to the teacher. Next time like this, when I'm there, since rest, I already said that if I can go back to my school because of the English.
You want to go back to school?
Yes, because of my English.
But you can still go to school.
No. If I get it, I'll go back.
So what is stopping you from going back to school?
Because of that sickness.
Do you get scared that it might come anytime?
Yes, but for now there, it's better.
This has made Fatima a very shy person, making it difficult for her to mingle with people. Fatima's life since then has been full of disappointment. This disappointment started when her desire of being a teacher came to an abrupt end.
When the whole thing started, it was in P6. She was okay, she was fine from the beginning, but getting to some time, things changed. Even the writing changed. She couldn't write nicely, and the English also started vanishing. That is how the whole thing came about.
So did she continue or she stopped?
She stopped. She couldn't continue again. Seeing the way she was writing, she couldn't read again. To write was even a bit difficult. She wanted to be a teacher. That's what she said. So we were trying to see if she could be a teacher, but because of that sickness, we had to send her to sewing.
And just like her condition, many other things in her life have suffered one form of unfortunate seizure or another. And according to her auntie, Emilia Auni, the most painful of the episodes of disappointment has been from men whom she falls in love with. They propose, do the knocking right, but abandon the marriage plans when they realize Fatima is epileptic.
The men are deceiving her. They will say, we want to marry you. They will take her, go and bring forth with her and dump her. That's what they've been doing to her. Now she has got 2 children, 2 boys. That is just what they have been doing. Just because she's having this problem. Somebody came out, wanted to marry her, and there was a woman in that house. By then they were staying in the opposite house. That woman just called the man and said, don't you know that this woman is suffering from that uncurable disease? He said, what is that? So, epilepsy. So if you marry her and you go to the market or you go to work, she may be cooking and she will fall inside the fire and it won't be good. She will die. Before you come, she is dead. And exactly, the man came one time and sat down with her. They were conversing, and in fact, she had an attack. So the man came and said, no, even though I have paid, just as the Muslims say, the Asadachi and all, I've done everything, but I cannot marry her because this is what somebody told me and I have seen it. So I won't be able to marry her again. In fact, it was very painful because he almost finished everything. It was only left with the marriage this ceremony so that she would go there. And that is all. It ended just like that.
This broken heart keeps telling me that I must take it slow. This broken heart keeps saying.
Fatima's heart continues to be broken by men. She was not born with this ailment. She went out playing with the children in the neighborhood when she was a child and fell from a tree. Little Fatima suffered a head injury and her life has never been the same. Though she's old, it is difficult for her auntie to allow her to walk or travel alone.
Up to now, we don't want her to move alone because you never know when it will happen. So anywhere at all she goes, we are always with her. Either I'm with her or her mother is always with her. Some time ago, I was even teaching in town. I was with her. One time it caught her in the market. I had to hold her. We were just standing in the middle of the market, wrestling. It was just fun. Very, very funny. But just rest. People were looking at us until it cooled down, and then we started walking again. It really is very, very painful to take care of a girl from childhood, not seeing such a thing, and then getting to this stage, when you start seeing things like that. It's not good.
Epilepsy is rife in this part of the country, and the sudden fall of this middle-aged man seems to confirm this. A while ago, during my interview with Fatima, I saw him walk away. In the next minute, he was down wobbling and foaming. This is a clear case of epilepsy. Several factors cause persons with epilepsy to fall, salivate and shake, as Dr. Ebenezer Baidu, head of neurology and developmental services at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, explains.
There's electricity flowing through our brains, as I'll put it always, and it can even light a bulb, and everything is channeled. So when it's excessive, like you have a car accelerator and brakes, these are already in place. So when things accelerate and the braking system doesn't control it, then you get that excess discharge, and that's what we call epilepsy. The fall and foam is simply the fact that your brain controls all these actions. So as I'm sitting now talking to you, my brain is controlling how I'm coordinating my eye contact and everything. So obviously, if the part of the brain, depending on the part which is being affected by this electrical activity, then those functions just black out. So if I can swallow, coordinate my swallowing and things, it goes. So suddenly I can't swallow and saliva comes out. And then the contractions that occur is all muscle electrical activity, isn't it? It's also gone out, like the coordinated way you would maintain yourself also goes. So it starts to go, it's uncontrolled, it's unregulated, and so all those things happen. So in simple terms, it's all because the regulation from your brain is changed.
According to Basic Needs, a non-governmental organization catering for epileptic and mental patients in 7 regions in the country, epilepsy is endemic in the country, especially in this part of the northern region. Epilepsy is one of the most neglected and grossly misunderstood areas of our health. And according to Fred Naktoma, Knowledge and Communications Officer of Basic Needs Ghana, more and more people in the northern region.
It is more widespread as a condition than people want to admit. Through our statistics, we've always encountered the issue of higher numbers. Now the question is it now that people are at a point where they are comfortable or confident enough to go and report it, or it is the case that there are new cases?
And Fred has figures to support his claim.
Our statistics as at 31st of March, out of the number of people who have mental illness and epilepsy throughout our work in Ghana, we have reached 28,093 direct beneficiaries. And when I say direct beneficiaries, these are people who have one mental illness or another, including and also people who have epilepsy. Now, out of this number, we have 12,155 of them being people with epilepsy. This is not the full picture. The full picture might be worse. Actually, we think it is worse than we are reporting now. Why? Because one, we are not covering the whole of Ghana.
Statistics from other quarters suggest over 65 people worldwide are epileptic. The World Health Organization, however, say 50 million people worldwide are suffering from the disease, and nearly 80% of the people with epilepsy are found in developing countries like Ghana. The World Health Organization say on the African continent, it affects 10 million people directly. Still, in Africa, about 9 out of 10 people with epilepsy go untreated. People with epilepsy and their families suffer from stigma and discrimination in many parts of the world, including Ghana. Aside getting the disease through birth and injury, doctors say infections like meningitis, HIV and tapeworms can all lead to epilepsy. Intellectual abilities. Some are brilliant, whilst others have problems with basic cognitive functioning. For the most part, though, people with epilepsy have normal intelligence.
The name of Jesus, I cancel it. Yes, go. The name of Jesus.
Back in Accra is 14-year-old George Amwa, who has not been to school for the past 10 years. And there appear to be no indication that he will ever go to school again. This is because he is suffering from epilepsy, and his condition, according to Dr. Ebenezer Baidu, is the most serious form.
George has intractable epilepsy, which just means that he has quite difficult epilepsy. I cannot remember if we've been able to characterize the epilepsy syndrome that he has, but he's probably been on 3 or 4 drugs at the same time, and it has not been able to control his seizures, and he keeps on coming. It's been quite tough for the family.
And what could trigger his time?
We have different triggers in general for epilepsy. So we have a group where even your menses could trigger epilepsy. We have another group where emotions, being frightened, or typically like on your birthday, it comes and you're excited, it triggers epilepsy. We have malaria, fever, infectious disease also triggering. But in the case of George, I must admit that I do not know exactly why he keeps on coming to us with epilepsy.
Doctors have tried for years. Concoctions from herbalists have been forced down his throat. George has undergone brain surgery. His parents always manage to get him all drugs prescribed by his doctors, but there has not been any change. In his 14 years on earth, George has spent much of his years at the children's ward of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital.
Collapse at once, now collapse to say
And the explanation from Dr. Ebenezer Baidu is what makes his parents believe George's condition is spiritual. Robert Amwa, his father, says as a result, they keep jumping from one prayer camp to the other.
And so I'm calling it also. Mean to be kind of munina. Sorry, I'm going sorry, pa. Sorry, pa, the machine. Who been penunia dina, Makutina, and to be like as I mean, TV Joshua. And then I may have precious and go by Yana where I quack try or swash it. And will be some commodicas. So some coffee.
I have visited a number of churches. I can't even count. Some told me to take him to Prophet TB Joshua, so I'm preparing to send my wife there to see what happens. Another friend has even advised that I take him to Bonigas. I have even decided with my wife that we take him to a prayer camp again. He was only discharged from Kolebu 2 days ago and the seizure persists. I don't even know where to take him again. Some time ago, I took him to the Apostle and spent close to 2 years there.
Because the Apostle says almost about 2 years.
George has 2 other brothers and 2 sisters. They stayed comfortably in their own house, but upon a recommendation from a pastor, George and his parents have moved to this small single room. They were convinced evil forces in their own house were behind George's predicament. But looking at how his condition keeps deteriorating, it appears those forces hid in their luggage to this new place. Their hearts are filled with sorrow. In the heat of our interview, Mr. Amoah's eyes suddenly turns red. His voice starts shaking as if we are going to hear him cry.
I didn't happen. So, say, be a nipple, will be here, no be sharing, say, be our baron into Miss Arian, did it be a mechanic them? If say to me, say to me, back rubber, and come on to pull back, come. If it will continue, a trust will be a very week, no trust, 10 minutes now, Baneco, 10 minutes now, Baneco, sir.
Just a day, it's important.
At this age, no, so we say, start to say, no, a bit me up at about 7 and 8. To be so glad, we should have let us have new days, and could have been new biaso. No way, no for what I trap is I didn't fear the bar. Oh, they say, if you know Busumo, say if your Bible so be there your papa no be. Until the dream was a well put and could have no piano, or could say I didn't know, no, because I did not do so. I never have it. It would be sad and useful.
I don't even want him to mingle with people. I can't stand the stigma, and I don't know when the seizure will come. I don't allow him to walk about. If it was even happening every 2 months, it would have been better. This is, however, not the case. It keeps recurring every 10 minutes. I am so sad. I always lock myself in my room and cry. I have 4 other children, and none of them is suffering from this. I worry and cry all the time. I can't tell where it's coming from. Whether it's coming from my wife's family or my family, only God can tell. I don't know where to go again.
George's father, who is a commercial driver, is compelled to cough out almost 1,000 cedis every month to buy drugs for George. What has even worsened his plight now is that his car has broken down. In times like this, he has to borrow from friends to buy drugs for his sick son.
Every day, 1.8, maybe a 2 million for 1 week. One of our name. Sisi amijina okura amijina mufi akura mesin akọ me kope drona sa me kope bi e de abre no te every month bia na te say me to 1.8 ni 2 million me to a month bia it is every week bia me to kope month te esa pepe o sa me san kope must say 2 million kura na say bia for me fan say a month na almost about me fan say getting to my shokura mo na say me kope 10 million this guy kura shem bottom mu amere because I go to no say be am friend me say mo be him nti ahụ chere na me call baby kura na me koji ska wo bi ho e dey asoso akoto ama.
We buy drugs worth 1.8 or 2 million cedis every week. As I speak to you now, the drugs are finished, so as soon as you leave, I have to go find money to buy drugs. Every month, I spend close to 10 million cedis. When I spoke to you, I was somewhere. I was seeing a friend to borrow money for the drugs.
If I have a seizure now and I have a loud cry and I have the generalized type of seizure and I fall down, I may injure my head at the edge of the table or bang my head on the floor. I may have a cut and bleed. So that is the extreme end. Now we have people in the other end who have seizures where there's no jerking, there's no biting of the tongue, there's no drooping of saliva. They are silent for 20 seconds, 30 seconds. This is common in children in school, and unfortunately these are the children who get the most knocks and the most lashes in class. So if they stares at you with a blank stare and you see the lip twitching or the eyes fluttering just for a brief moment, and he comes out of that trance and goes back to his normal activity, we call that a focal type of seizure.
Epilepsy is neither curable nor contagious, but genetically it can be passed on. However, The fact that a mother or father has it does not mean that their children will definitely have it, as Dr. Ebenezer Baidu explains.
When we say genetics, it's probably not along the similar lines that most people will think that, oh, you get it and then you are going to pass it on to your son in a certain predictable fashion. What we know is that, I mean, frankly, genes are what make us, isn't it? Genes. So you cannot have a condition that there won't be that basis. But there's a complex interaction or interplay in terms of the way we inherit some of these. And it's not the simple thing that because I have it, then I'm going to pass it on in a direct way. But there's definitely what we know as the genetic epilepsies. So some families have a tendency to experience epilepsy because there are some gene factors, and a lot of research is going on. Some have been identified for certain types.
The lucky ones are able to escape this genetic computation. We may consider them as fortunate, as in the case of these two beautiful little girls. No wonder 6-year-old Pearl Labi and her 3-year-old younger sister Albertina Labi are always excited. Had it been the case that epilepsy can always be passed on genetically, the two would have been victims by now. This is because their 41-year-old mother, Francisca Abalabi, lives with the disease.
First, I said, who will get married to me? Who will take me as a wife? Then I was worried, so I think about all these things. Even if I have friend and I tell the friend that's my problem, and along the line this thing happen, you see that the person will change, then I will withdraw myself first. I don't wait for the person to tell me that I've stopped with you or this is, I will withdraw my face first. So it was a big problem for me. So all the time I pray for it that God will heal me.
Epilepsy is a frustrating ailment. In some families where a person has it, he or she is seen as a shame on that family. This compels them to go every length and explore all avenues in an attempt to get cured. Francisca did exactly that, including drinking and bathing with concoctions mixed with the grind head of houseflies. Yet, the seizures have not ceased till date.
The first time I encountered it, that is face to face, very close. How did I behave? What was the feeling like? It was full of fear. Okay, not knowing what is going to happen, what is going to be the next thing. Is she going to die? How will I explain it? And it was full of fear. Okay, but I was just able to master one or two courage, and I was able to hit it on the head, hit it right on the head of the nail, and I got it right. And from there, I have to build on that and seek for more insight on what is happening. And from there, like I always say, or it has been said, is that knowledge is power. When she enlightened me a little bit on what is happening, it took away the fear. But the first time, the fear there, my country will say, well, and I'm lying. The fear attended to me that day, but I have to drive it away with the kind of knowledge she gives me, and then I begin to make research on my own.
And the first time Thomas Labi, her husband, witnessed her seizure was the first time she decided to visit him before marriage proposal even followed. Many men, frankly, would have ended the relationship there and then. But Thomas vowed to go ahead and marry her. He has gone ahead to read more on the disease.
When it happens, I always rely on God to direct me, and my inspiration and my instinct has never failed me. Okay, at every point in time when it happened, I know that I have to hold her. That is my perception. Okay, I have to hold her and prevent her from falling. But until then, when I had a book from Dr. Palu and I realized that even when they are on the ground, I'm not supposed to restrict her. I just need to clear the environment of any sharp object that can cause additional injury. We've been experiencing this seizure on a lighter note, but there was another time the thing took a different form, and that was one of the greatest tests I've ever gone through with respect to dealing with how to handle her seizures when it comes. But there was a time it graduated to that tonic-clonic type, and there was this last, I've forgotten the last name for the other one, which made the two of us fall. In fact, that day she was too strong for my control. It has never happened before. In fact, with all the strength I have, it was still failing me because she was becoming stronger at every second.
And when Francisca is pregnant, her condition worsens. The seizures keep recurring.
When we got married, 3 months later, she got pregnant. Okay, and I was so excited. But in the midst of my excitement, there was a little bit of caution. When she got pregnant, the thing took a different form. This time, it was coming too frequent and too strong for my liking. Yes. So what I was doing was this. That is why I began to adopt some of these strategies. Like when we sit, you always be at the edge of the 3-in-1 chair. So when you have an attack, just lie down in the chair. That is if I am not there. Lie down in the chair, and as much as you can, just try and lie on your back. It is not very safe, but this is my own method of trying to curve she hitting the stomach against anything. So when the stomach is up like this, it is very difficult for her to hit it. But if it's on the side, it is likely she might be pressing it or hitting it. Now that she has delivered, what happens if I'm not there and she's carrying the baby, she's breastfeeding the baby, and she have an attack?
Did it ever happen? And what happened?
The first time, I just rushed like a wounded lion, and I carried my baby first to safety.
The baby fell?
Yes. No, I carried the baby first. I took the baby from her first to safety. Then I have to attend to her by controlling her and letting her lie in the chair.
Dr. Albert Akpalu, a senior physician specialist and head of neurology at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, says there is a medical reason behind this.
The problem with pregnancy and seizures is that some of the medicines are toxic to the baby. So some drugs, if you're having epilepsy and you're on sodium valproate, for instance, or you're on phenobarbital or phenytoin or any of the older drugs, we need to switch you to a more safer drug like carbamazepine or lamotrigine and add folic acid. So for us at the clinic, any woman in the reproductive age group who comes to our clinic, we start them on folic acid because we don't know when they are going to make their decision to start their families.
Interestingly, Francisca's 2 kids have also learned how to handle their mother. He has a seizure and their father is not around. Remember, the eldest is 6 years, whilst the youngest is only 3 years.
And do you know wonderful thing? When it's happening, this first girl, then she will come and hold me. The first time she hold me, the father was not there. Hey, I said, hey, God, you are wonderful. See this thing, if the thing is coming, the way my husband said that, the way I struggle, and see this kid, she hold me till the time the thing stopped. So when the thing went there, I cried. The crying was not because of pain, because of joy, that I get somebody who will comfort me, apart from my husband and my family.
So did she ask what was wrong with you?
Yes, and I say I'm sick. So right now she know that I'm sick. So if it's happened, then she said, Mommy, you'll be fine, okay? The sickness will go, you'll be fine. And right now, the little one too have come and add, if it's happened, then she will come and hold me. So by the time the thing will go, I've seen that they are all holding me.
Francisca says these are enough to wipe her tears. She no longer thinks of the sickness again.
Before, they say that those they have such a problem, they cannot born. So when my husband is coming to marry me, some people talk plenty things for him that I will never born. So he shouldn't marry me. He said he will marry me.
And here you are with these two beautiful girls.
Oh. So right now I said I will not cry again, because why should I cry? I've get married, and even not married like engagement. I'm Mrs. I'm full Mrs. And I've got children, and see my wonderful husband too. So why should I worry again? So right now, if I'm working and it's happened, I don't care. I don't care what people will say. Because what I want, I'll get it. And what again? If you say it, you go. I have my husband, I have my children. What again? So me, right now, I don't care. I don't think about my sickness. I'm waiting for the actual time God will heal me.
Another day without your smile. Another day just passes by. But now I know how much it means for you to stay right here with me.
Perhaps the most liberating truth surrounding epilepsy is that it is perfectly compatible with a normal happy life, a positive outlook, a supportive environment, and good medical care usually make it possible to live fruitfully with epilepsy.
I wanna go with you. I wanna die lying in your arms. I wanna grow with you. I wanna be looking in your eyes. I wanna be there for you, sharing in everything you do.
And what persons like Francisca needs most is unconditional love devoid of stigma. She is fortunate to be getting even more of this from her husband, Thomas Labi.
Someone will tell you that if you touch their saliva, you have it. Then what about me, who is having sex with someone who is epileptic? There are times there was a day we were having sex and it happened. Okay?
What did you do?
I continue what I'm doing. I didn't stop. I didn't stop.
Were you not scared?
No. Scared about what? And when it happened, I was like, Master, you can't come and spoil my phone. What do you mean? You can't, no, you can't say, I can't allow this thing to spoil my phone. So I continue what I was doing. Wherever I was, I just continue. And the moment I continue, that was one of the shortest I've experienced. I said, and it's understand your man, everyone moving, trick, okay, and at times I talked to my wife about it. We laughed over it. There was a time she had an attack. She was lying down on the bed. She had an attack. And the only thing that came to me is I go and kiss her. The moment I kiss her, the thing flash off. I said, now wow. Okay, but these are my experiences.
Thomas is a strong, caring husband and a father. He sees his wife's condition as a burden they must carry. Thomas has high hopes that one day his wife will get her healing. He is a man of faith, but faith is not enough to bear the financial burden his wife's condition has brought him.
There are sometimes we have to go through the month struggling to eat. Financially, it hasn't been easy. Even when national health came in, there are sometimes you go national health, it said it doesn't cover this, it doesn't cover that. So the other day, I had to buy a drug that is going to take care for just 1 month. It was 60 Ghana. It was 60 Ghana, and just 1 month, and they're written for 2 months. So I couldn't buy it all the 2 months. I have to buy 1 month and just wait.
With teary eyes, Thomas struggles to speak again.
And just wait for some time so I can get the other dosage for her to take. But come on.
What was going through your mind that time? How did you feel when you were unable to get all for her that very moment?
I feel very bad. Okay. At times I feel like I'm alone. Okay, it's normal and it's human. At a certain point in our life, we feel like God has left us alone. Okay, but on a second thought, I just look at where I'm coming from, where I am, and I think that God has done more than what Napoleon could do. So I have no reason to even entertain that kind of feeling. But at times I feel very bad. I always pray I will have the means to be able to take care of her. Hands down, it is my cross. I am the man of the house. That is what makes me the man. The man in the house is not just the man who takes decision and he speaks and nobody speaks. There are sometimes we need to take the final decision, because when the burden comes, we are going to head it. We are supposed to be at the forefront. If anybody should die, we should die first before If we die first and then they are killed, it is justifiable, right? So I believe it is my responsibility. So I don't feel too bad, but my feeling inadequate at a point in time because I'm not able to get one or two things to able to get her drugs and get certain things for her. Pray God gives me the opportunity to be able to have work to do all the time, and so there will not be a time I'll be out of job. Then that is going to kill me.
For a condition that has been known about since ancient times, epilepsy is still considered in this modern day with a widespread discrimination based on myths and misconceptions.
In church, if people think that people are possessed, in some areas they think that walking in the shadow of somebody with seizures will give you seizures. Inhaling the flatulence of somebody with seizures will give you seizures, or even worse, touching the spittle or the saliva coming. And just Jamestown here, the woman who made the banku got bent because she was making the banku and she fell into the pot and the front of her chest. We'll show you the pictures, and nobody would touch this woman because they think that if they held her they will get seizures. So she bent, she roasted, so a nurse came and pushed her up.
Actually, epilepsy seizures can range from a sudden blankness and the loss of awareness of the location and surroundings. Available statistics suggest as many as 40,000 people die annually as a direct consequence of seizures. With the exception of accident, epilepsy is a non-fatal condition, and here's a confirmation of this by the head of the Kolebu Plastic Surgery Department, Dr. Opokuware Ampoma.
We've had cases here that have ended up succumbing because of the extensive nature of their burns, and then there are some too who have facial burns, and they are really very badly scarred for life. You can imagine the sort of stigma associated with having seizures, and then in addition to that, having these horrific scars, which, no matter the amount of plastic surgery that is done, they're never going to look, as normal as you and I. So it really is a big challenge. So that serves to even stigmatize and isolate them even further.
Fatima Takarimu, who lives in Tamale, sustained hand injury when she fell into a boiling soup. Donald Nakoroma, her son, says that was the saddest moment in his life.
She was cooking. If she can look on her hand, she was cooking, so it came. So she dipped her hand inside. She was going to fall, so she dipped her hand inside a pot and was there. And me too, I was in school. It was this my grandmother who came and removed the hand from the pot. It nearly boiled the hand because it was about 30 minutes or so. So when I just came, she told me I was the one who took her to the pharmacist. So the pharmacist dressed it and said we should go back to hospital. So we went to hospital and they prescribed some medicines for her, and then she took them, and then it was now okay.
Back at the Kolebu Plastic Surgery Department, Dr. Opokuware Ampoma keeps attending to scores of epileptic patients who have sustained various degrees of burns and needs instant plastic surgery. He opens up a picture of a pregnant woman who experienced seizure and fell into fire whilst cooking. Sadly, she couldn't survive.
She had burns to the right hand, the forearm, you can see up to the shoulder region, and also the breast, and then the chest area, and she has some other burn on the other the left leg around the thigh. You can see that. You can also see the outline of the tendons and the bones. This one, it was bent right down to the forearm. It was bent right down to the bone, and then on the chest wall, you can see that these are very, very, very deep. So this one, we had to. So she was going for dressing, so we had to bring her in, resuscitate her, do dressing, and we had to cut out all the dead bits, and then later on she had some skin grafting done. This particular was pregnant at that time. When you have severe burns and you are pregnant, it is a very complicated sort of situation. She was more than 5 months. She was with us around the 8th month or so. When we thought she was going to give birth, but somehow she just started going downhill. So in the end, she became so bad that we had to deliver the baby. She succumbed soon afterwards.
It is the unpredictability of seizures that can be the most crippling and can most negatively impact safety, lifespan, and quality of life for epilepsy sufferers. Some who survive such accidents sustain severe and permanent injuries. For the unfortunate ones who sustain facial burns like Ajua Mercy, they cannot even make themselves out after surgery. Ajua Mercy has been on admission here for close to 4 months. Her seizure came whilst cooking and she fell directly in the fire. Unlike others, she was not lucky. Her face rather went straight inside the fire. She is totally deformed in the face. Doctors here have tried their best, but she is not any better. Her left eye cannot close even when she sleeps.
I was cooking, and as soon as I took the food from the coal pot, the seizure came and I fell straight in the fire. I could not even feel that I was in fire. It was as if I was dead. No one could locate me at that time until our last born came there and started shouting that I was dead. It was then that my mother rushed in and took me from the fire. I felt miserable. I started asking where they could take me to dress my facial wounds and make my face better. I asked my mother where they could get to fix my eyes for me.
Ajua Mercy has been discharged, but she cannot go home. Settling a bill of a little over 3,000 cedis by her single mother is a struggle now. Until she pays, she will continue to make this ward her home. In the past centuries, people with epilepsy having seizures and convulsions are considered under the influence of the devil.
If you go back to the Bible that we all use, you hear about demons being cast out of somebody with epilepsy. So, from the time of Christ, it has been with us that if you have epilepsy, probably some demons are inside you, and so there's that spiritual dimension. But you see, I'll go on to say that some of the brightest people we've seen on this earth had epilepsy.
And because of this spiritual association, people with epileptic relatives continue to seek spiritual intervention, or if you like, spiritual treatment, not only from Christian prayer camps, but fetish and spiritualists as well. In Tamale lives Alhaji Hussein Al Hassan. He claims to have over the years used prayers and other means or healed persons living with epilepsy. In his home, which doubles as his treatment center, people with epilepsy and mentally ill patients have been chained as they undergo treatment. He is surrounded by all forms of herbs and medicinal roots which he uses for healing. Though Alhaji Hussein Al-Hassan believes in other causes of epilepsy, he says there is no doubt that at times it happens spiritually.
You see a child who has come up and then likes the father too likes him, he's serving the father, and you can just see from the child that in future he will be somebody. Then either neighbors or relatives will spoil the child with this with bad intentions. They know how to go about what they will do to spoil the child spiritually. Yes. That somebody can do it and throw it at you spiritually and you get it. That he believes in it.
Whether it's the demon or a spirit or whatever goes through, the treatment is there available. Camlet has given this treatment, this people treatment. And when we started the Epilepsy Society about 5 years ago, we had an outreach at the Teachers Hall, and we had people coming from all over. These are parents of children who have epilepsy. And whilst we were talking, one of the children had seizure. And these are parents of people living with epilepsy. Everybody scattered from the hall because they thought that they were going to be infected by the other one. So we went through the process, and at the end of the meeting, another child had another seizure. This time everything was nice. So the main thing is to cushion their head, move them around from danger. You can't stop them from having the seizure. People think putting their mouth or a spoon into their mouth will stop that. Currently, leave them alone. You cannot swallow your tongue. So we've had people come into the emergency room with phones ringing. We don't know where the phones are ringing. This is phones in people's mouths, trying to prevent. You cannot bite your tongue. So that's the first thing. Do not panic. Create space around for the patient. Loosen the patient's clothes and allow the person to finish the convulsion. 2-3 minutes to be over. Keep the person safe. He may have urinated on himself. Clean the spittle. Get him up. He'll be a little confused afterwards. After that spell, the person will be fine and he'll go back to his normal activities.
Is it curable?
Epilepsy is treatable. So cure in a sense means several things. So I'll give you a law of thirds. 30% of people who have seizures or who have epilepsy may have their epilepsy stopping after taking medication for at least 2 years. Another 30% may have a seizure on and off. Another 30% will have intractable seizures. Now, these patients with intractable seizures are people who have tumors, brain tumors, or lesions in the brain which have caused damage to the brain. So when we are evaluating you for seizures, we do a scan, we do an EEG, electroencephalogram, which you'll see very soon. We'll do a CT scan of your head to make sure there's no tumor or growth or malformation in your brain which is causing that, and then we start you on medication.
Let us now go to the Kolebu Electroencephalogram Center to witness the process used to establish whether there is a tumor or brain damage that causes epilepsy. The cry of an epileptic patient echoes through the walls of the Electroencephalogram Center of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Technicians here are preparing her to go through the process, but for some reason they have to reshuffle hers. The electroencephalogram is the means of getting the electrical activity of the brain. They first have to fix what they call the electrodes, and these have to sit on the skull in order that the activities would be picked from the surface. The skin has to be prepared and cables fixed on the skull. It is the only means through which the voltage can be established. Benjamin Quay is the head of the center.
We have particular places where we place these electrodes. The method used is what we call the 10-20 system, meaning that you divide the brain into 10 and 20% and then stick these electrodes on the 10% and then the 20% max. This is a means of getting an average recording from the brain.
So in all, how many wires have been connected?
It's about 23 in all. Each will pick activity from exactly which position it has been placed. You can see the top ones are the vertex. Then we come to the parasagittal, then we come to the temples, then the occipital. So virtually the whole brain is covered. The brain is like an electric generator. It produces its own electricity, but very, very, very tiny, of the order of 1 million times smaller than an ordinary volt. So it is this voltage that we try to pick from the brain. And then whatever affects the brain alters this type of electricity which we are picking. When we pick them, it tells you exactly what will be going on during the time of recording.
So the outcome from this test will determine the kind of treatment doctors will offer their epileptic patients. Though there is treatment for them, the stigma and myth worsen the condition of people living with epilepsy. Epilepsy is one of the oldest medical conditions, yet it remains wrapped in mystery and myth. The widespread misunderstanding causes a stigma that makes life more difficult. As doctors continue to step up education on this ancient-old disease to demystify it and reduce the stigma associated with it, they wish its victims could adopt the "I don't care" attitude, as in the case of Mrs. Francisca Labi, and move on with their lives.
Right now, I don't care. I don't think about my sickness. I'm waiting for the actual time God will heal me.
And save me, and I will be saved.
If you meet any of our patients, Dr. Palu's 5 rules and regulations. 1, do not be angry. 2, do not be hungry. All right, do not be angry. Do not be hungry. All right, have enough sleep, eat at the correct time, and schedule your work normally. If we do this, we reduce the amount of stress. Are there foods that trigger epilepsy? Yes, alcohol. Alcohol is one of the triggers. So far as I know, there's no food which triggers seizures. Too much lights, earphones, too much video games. Pilots are exempted. You need to do an EEG or some tests to make sure you don't have seizures. Heavy duty drivers or high duty drivers or long distance drivers are not if you have seizures, we don't advise you to do that. So we are negotiating with the DVLA to try and improve the law on driving, which is archaic.
And He is a God who will heal us. He is a healing God.
Check your status if you are epileptic and get clearance from your doctors and the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority before you move any vehicle. This can save you from a possible accident which can claim your life. As I bring this documentary to an end, I want to share with you again some truths and myths surrounding epilepsy. The condition is not usually inherited. While some types of epilepsy are passed on through family, the majority of cases have unknown or environmental causes. Epilepsy is a medical problem and nothing else. If you think you have epilepsy, please see a doctor. This has been Seth Kwame Boateng for Joy News.